Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new show, Trade Secrets. I'm your host, Kelsie Kasper, and I couldn't be more excited to be joining you guys on this new podcast where I'll have the opportunity to talk with not only former but current front office staff members, coaches, and GMs, and talk about the most exciting trades in all of women's sports.
Trade Secrets.
I couldn't be more excited to introduce our first guest. He is one of the best WNBA coaches in the league's history. He's a two-time champion, a two-time Coach of the Year honoree, Dan Hughes. Thank you so much for coming on and joining the podcast.
Sure.
Well, I know it wasn't too long ago that you were on the sidelines in the WNBA winning titles with the Seattle Storm, but I got to know now, as you're retired now, what does retired life look like for you as a WNBA coach?
I'll tell you, I'm probably just about as busy as I have been when all those years. I coached almost 20 years in the WNBA. I don't travel quite as much. I still travel a decent amount, but still involved in basketball every day. Still, to be honest with you, enjoying a maybe a better balance of taking of time with my wife and taking time with my grandkids, but also still having basketball involved.
So you got a good mix of both, everything here in retired life.
I do.
Very good. Well, awesome. So in this podcast, I really want to hone in on one of your specific coaching spots and one specific trade that you had. And that was during your time with the San Antonio Stars when you traded for Becky Hammon, who at the time was playing for the New York Liberty. So, Coach, I want you to first just set the scene for me. This is back in 2007. What was your team like? What was the franchise like? And why did you think Becky would be a good addition?
Well, I had gone through, I had taken over in Charlotte, and then I'd gone to Cleveland, and I had a reputation as kind of a builder of teams, even though it was just the beginning. So I go to San Antonio, and it was a little different in San Antonio. It wasn't all just about changing culture. I had to change players too. And so I had gone a couple years, and we had gotten better from year one to year two, but we still weren't a playoff team. We still weren't, where we needed to be. So I knew this was a very pivotal year for us in San Antonio. And the beautiful thing was they gave me a third year. Sometimes coaches don't get a third year to complete the deal. The Spurs and that organization gave me the third year. So I knew I needed a leader to add to what we had. I knew I needed a face that San Antonio could embrace. The Spurs had Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and all those things. And I knew that, wow, if I could get Becky Hammon, that would be exactly what I'm looking for. And I had tried for years before to try to frame a deal, and they had no interest. They had no interest. And I would always close and say, hey, if you ever change your mind about moving Becky, please let me get to the front of the list. Well, long story short, I received the call. I remember exactly where I was. I was at the Big 12 tournament. I got a call, and are you interested? Yes. And then I had the second pick in the draft, and they also wanted my first pick for next year. But that was a pretty easy decision for me. The tricky part was we were having this discussion, and it was probably March, early March. And because of the rules back in the day, we couldn't complete this trade until draft day. At that point, you couldn't take a draft pick and trade it until you had made a selection. So we were going to have to keep this quiet. April, and I believe it was around my birthday. It was around the 14th in that area somewhere there. We're going to have to keep it quiet. So that's the background of this story. And we did a great job. I did not want competition for Becky. So I kept this very, very close to the vest. And to be honest with you, we executed the trade on draft day. And that basically changed our franchise in an awful big way.
And you just mentioned it. This all went down on draft night, the 2007 WNBA Draft. What was
Yep.
that night like for you, having to balance going through an actual draft night, but also knowing you're keeping this big trade close to your chest and hoping it all works out in the end?
Well, it it was just supposed to be. Just to be honest with you, it was in Cleveland, Ohio, where I had been coach, and I'm an Ohio guy, and we were in Cleveland. Everything was just setting up right in so many ways. The Final Four was there. At that time, we had our draft at the site of the Final Four. Pat Summit was about to win a championship. Candace Parker, who we would encounter at LA, was about to be, I believe, she might have been a junior or senior. It might have been senior at that time, but it just set up. It was a hectic day. We had to execute a lot of things. We had to make the draft pick. The TV would announce that we've selected. It was Jessica Davenport, and then I had to walk down and greet her, knowing that I'm trading her in moments. And that's a artful thing to do. And I like Jessica a lot. But until this was completed, I couldn't lay the cards out for her exactly what was going to happen.
And you kind of gave us a little glimpse into it, but for just the casual fan who has no idea, what are those phone calls like when you're talking with other front offices, other GMs, trying to make these trades? Give us a little glimpse into what those negotiations are like.
Well, the truth is that you really know the if you're doing a great job, you know the people you're talking to, and you know how trustworthy that process really is. There are some people that, when they come to you and say, "Hey, what do you think about doing this?" Well, that may never happen. This one, Blaze was the GM of New York, and she was very professional. Just to be honest with you, Carol was very professional, and we kept that trade quiet, both ends, for months. And I knew she'd be there, and we had set it up with the league. They knew what was going to happen. Everybody was aware this was going to happen, but by the rules of that day, of the day, we had to play it out this way. But I totally trusted New York, and I totally trusted Carol, and I think she felt the same way. And that's part of the deal of being a good GM. I was a GM and head coach at that time. You can get some things done if there's a trust, but you also have to measure, is the person you're dealing with someone you also would share trust with?
Mm-hmm. And since this was such a need to know basis, and at the time, Becky had spent probably over 5 years in New York, she was a beloved player. What was the
Yeah.
reaction all around the league in terms of the New York fans' reaction and then those in San Antonio?
Well, in San Antonio, it was celebration. I think in New York, it would be like, not celebration. She was very popular. She was, I don't want to conjecture why they traded her, but Becky had gone through an injury or two, and I'm not sure they felt, well, maybe Becky's had her best years, and we can get 2 first-round picks, including the number 2, as we rebuild. And they did rebuild a little bit with that move, but I saw Becky as not anyways done yet. She had a higher ceiling. I think she had her best years, to be honest with you, in San Antonio. And I think our feeling of that played out exactly like I thought.
And later down the road, people always look back at trades and think about who won and who lost. When you look back at this trade, is this an easy one to mark up in the win column for you and the Stars franchise?
Well, because of Becky, yeah. I mean, but you know, if you look at 20, I believe it was 20, the year we went to the finals, 2008, which would have been just a couple years later. We make it to the finals out of the West. We beat LA and Candace Parker and Lisa Leslie and all them. We win and go to the finals. New York plays Detroit, okay, in the conference finals. So they had taken whatever they did with their teams. I don't know if any of their players turned out the magnitude that Becky turned out with us, but they still got the ship righted in a way that had they had a deciding game with Detroit. If they win that game, we would have played each other in 2008 in the WNBA finals.
And just describe overall the relationship that you had with Becky, the fans had with her. You said she had her best years in San Antonio. Just what impact did she make overall on that organization?
Well, the hardest thing is you build is you look for talent and you do that, but the type of talent that makes a difference is leadership, talent with leadership, and Becky had that. I mean, I had the year before signed Vicki Johnson, who was a very good friend of Vicky's from the New York team, and Vicki brought some leadership to our team, but I knew we needed a couple pieces that not only were talented but could lead the team. Internal leadership is without question the most powerful way to really have a good team. And I knew Becky would bring that. I had no doubt. I had played against her. I knew what we were getting. And, for me, it didn't happen very long. It happened pretty quick. And you could see the team centering around her and us growing in that internal leadership because of her presence.
You mentioned the leadership. That's a perfect segue into our last topic. Becky, obviously, after her playing career, dove right into coaching, assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs, now the head coach of the Las Vegas Aces. I mean, talk about the lasting impact that trade had on her career.
Well, it had a lot to do with it because Greg Popovich was a good friend, and he also was in San Antonio and a supporter of the Stars and everything like that. And I had several conversations with Pop. I would travel sometimes and do broadcasts for the Spurs, and he was always very intrigued with Becky. He loved a lot of things about Becky the player. And we shared a lot of conversations over dinner about Becky, just to be honest with you. And I could tell he was really interested. And then as Becky's career wound down, I knew in their mind they were thinking this would be a good coach. And so we had discussions. And as Becky got to the point of retiring, it was really fun for me to watch her take that step from the WNBA right into the NBA and become a coach. And I remember Becky is a very talented young woman, like a lot of people I have coached. She could have done a lot of things in the world. But I remember the day she walked into me, it was at an exit meeting after she'd had a injury. She had an ACL. And she said to me, Coach, I want to be a coach. And with Beck, if she says, I want to do this, you can plant a flag on that and it's probably going to happen.
And clearly she has succeeded in that role now with the Aces, back-to-back WNBA champions. Tell me, do you at all keep up, watch the Aces, watch her coach? You ever give her any advice or anything like that?
Oh, I don't give her advice. She knows what to do. But I watch, and she knows I watch. And matter of fact, we texted back and forth yesterday. I'm actually going out. I'm going to be in Las Vegas with one of the companies I work with is called B-Reps, and I'm wearing the shirt here. They are getting honored at NBA Summer League. They have merged and won one of the contests that startup companies have. It's a virtual reality company teaching basketball with the NBA. So I'm coming out, and I let her know yesterday I'd come over to the game, and so we texted back and forth. And I don't miss many of her games, just to be honest with you. I have an awful lot of former players that are out there in the world, and I watch a lot of games where I know the coach and I know there's a tie that allows me to just have great joy watching them do what they do. And Becky, she's at the top of that list.
Well, that's super cool. You guys have been able to not only create that relationship, but maintain it throughout both of your careers and on. So thank you so much, Coach, for joining us on our first episode of Trade Secrets. It was great getting to know you and learning a little bit more about your story with Becky Hammon. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the professional approach you had with me. Take care.
Well, that wraps up our first episode of Trade Secrets with Dan Hughes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We have so many more exciting episodes and exciting guests coming up. So make sure to stick around on our social channels and YouTube. We are Fearless SC for all our content and upcoming shows. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Fearless SC. Find us on your favorite podcast platform, on YouTube, and across social media at We Are Fearless SC.